Good evening. I call to order the Town Council meeting of Monday, June 6, 2022. It's now 7 p.m. here in the McKinnon Council chambers. First order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Very good. Roll call, Mary.
Councillor Adams.
Present.
Councillor Catrona. Absent. Councillor Daniel.
Present.
Councillor Dow.
Delayed.
Councillor Joanne.
Present.
Councillor Lazo.
Present.
Councillor Marchetti.
Present.
Councillor Ryan.
Present.
And Councillor Steves.
Present.
We have 7 present at this point. We have a quorum. Item number 3, consider and accept the Town Council meeting minutes of Monday, May 23rd, 2022.
So moved. Second.
Council Steves.
Well, she was up first, but it's okay.
I just have a couple of quick
Okay,
things.
go ahead.
So on page 3 under Town Clerk, I would just request that said Council Ryan said the General Government Subcommittee is recommending, because it was the whole subcommittee's recommendation, not just my own, on that one. And then on page 5, right at the bottom of page 5, it says vote on this item by roll call. It says by 5 to 7, the motion carries. I believe it should be 5 to 2.
Yeah.
And those were the only 2 things I noticed, Mr. Chair.
Very good. Council Steves.
Yeah, the other thing I just noted that there's a ton of spelling errors.
I sent over another draft. I had sent an early draft accidentally, so
Okay.
Nor sent over another one where they're corrected. I just sent the wrong one.
Okay, the version that I had was the one that
She sent
Laura
that
sent
one
over
first.
most recently.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So I don't know, so if you have another version that's all corrected, that's good.
Okay.
But the version I looked at is laden with spelling errors. Okay, good.
Anyone else? There being no one else, all those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous of all present.
Mr. Chair, I'll abstain.
You'll abstain? Very good. 601. Item number 4, Subcommittee reports. General Government, Councilor Ryan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, we have a number of items on the agenda tonight, including agenda items number 16, 17, 19, 20, 21, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, and 31. I will bring up the recommendations of the committee at that time.
Very good. Department of Public Works, Councilor Marchetti.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We've had no meetings and none scheduled. There is one agenda item tonight, agenda item number 18. I was unable to hold a meeting due to a family matter, so the town manager asked if he could bring it right up to the council, and I was okay with that. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. Education and Human Services, Councilor Joanne.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you. The Education and Human Services Subcommittee met on June 1st. Counselor in attendance was myself. Councilor Catrona was a no-show and absent with no excuse. Councilor Ryan was delayed due to the meeting had gotten changed from a 7 o'clock to a 6:30, and was just inadvertent on her part, so she did get there at the end. And my 2 citizen members were present, Ms. Christo and Mr. Dyer. Items on the agenda tonight, there is numerous appointments to boards and commissions, as well as 2 appointments to other positions. One was for the landfill monitor. There was discussion on that, whether that should be a 3-year or 1 year, because we know the landfill is coming to closure. So I'm sure the town manager will talk to that agenda. And we did recommend that to come up for discussion. Not on tonight's agenda, but was discussed and moved to council, was to reappoint Keith Roberts as the Veterans Agent. However, upon further review, it was determined that he already has an appointment as the Veteran Services Director, and by virtue of the charter that job description says that he serves as the veterans agent, so there was no need to appoint him to the veterans agent position. The last thing that we had discussed, we had asked that it be separated out to the other consent agenda on positions, was the appointment to the Board of Health, because that was a quasi-judicial. So I would ask the chair to respectfully move that out of the total list of appointments as requested by the EHS, but that's the purview of the council. Thank you.
Very good. Planning and Development, Councilor Adams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we had a meeting on May 31st. So tonight's agenda items 22 through 24 are on the agenda. We also have, I'll be speaking to the ARPA motions, items 9 through 14, and then at the end, the town manager's evaluation packet, agenda item number 35. There are no scheduled meetings as of yet. Thanks.
Very good, thank you. And Protection of Persons and Property, Council Lazo.
No report at this time. We have a meeting scheduled for Wednesday, the 8th, 7 p.m. in the Veterans Room.
Very good. Chairman's announcements. I was very pleased to be able to go to the Southbridge High School graduation last Friday night. It was held at 5:30 at McMahon Field. It was a wonderful night, great weather, a lot of happy families, a lot of happy children, and staff members as well. It was a well-done ceremony. Obviously, the children had worked hard on putting it together, and it was just a nice night all the way around. And my congratulations to this year's graduating class. I believe I counted 86. I could be off by a couple, but it was a great night, and very pleased to have been there. I would like to remind citizens of Southbridge and the current members as well, the current citizen members as well, that we're looking for submission of interest for council subcommittee membership for the following year, starting in July. And I believe it starts August 1st, actually, if I recall correctly. The appointments extend to July 31st. Right. So we'll need a submission of forms of interest for people who might be interested in serving another year or would like to serve the year on the subcommittees. And lastly, I'd like to remind people that the election is June 14th at the Community Center on Chestnut Street in Southbridge. Every election is important. There's an old saying that says that you don't have a right to complain unless you vote. So I'd like to hear a lot of complaints and a lot of compliments. So I'd like to see that a lot of people have voted. So again, just a reminder, Tuesday, June 14th at the Community Center on Chestnut Street. And that's all I have. Town manager's announcements.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the council. First of all, I just want to alert everybody in Southbridge that Saturday, June 25th, 2022, from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. will be the Household Hazardous Waste Collection Day. It will be at the Casella Waste Services Facility at 165 Barefoot Road, which is across the land from the landfill. There is a brochure. I believe it can be obtained, as well as further information from our Board of Health and the Inspections Office. I'd also let people know that, dovetailing on your request for volunteers for citizen subcommittees, I'm working with my staff to put together a list of vacancies on any boards and commissions. We're working on that, and right now, if you go to the town's website and click on the heading Boards and Commissions, when you get to Boards and Commissions, on the very top, it says Board Commissions, Member Vacancies, Boards and Commissions, and there's the word Directory. If you click on that, it'll break it down, every one of the boards and commissions, tell you who's on there and the number of vacancies on that particular board. And what our goal will be is we'll try and make easy access links to that from various places on the web page, and it is in my intention then to incorporate it into our regular town council meetings, where we can just let people know the number of vacancies. We can quickly read off that we have vacancies. Let's say we have one right now in the Board of Health, and just quickly go down the list to let people know what's out there. Lastly, Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to let you know that last Thursday and Friday I was not here. I was unable to attend the graduation. I was at the Massachusetts Municipal Managers Association Conference and Workshop. One of the focus of this was dealing with the post-pandemic world and working with our staff. And they did have some interesting conversation and dialogue. They had folks from the Employee Assistance Program there letting us know that the impact that it's had on people and how the Great Resignation, the Great Reshuffling has impacted communities, and that people are beginning to look for quality of life issues. And the biggest takeaway was that, post the pandemic, a lot of people's worlds have reset, so they're feeling vulnerable and uncertain in not only their careers, but in their home life. And now more than ever, a lot of those issues come to work with folks. So it's really talking about how to accommodate people and reassure them, that there is stability in the workplace, and working with those folks going forward. So it was an interesting conference and a lot of interesting information that we brought back, and we'll try and integrate it here when I get to meet with our HR later this week. And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Very good. Item number 7, presentations. The first presentation this evening is the Veterans Council of Southbridge Initiative Brief with Council Vice Chair Dave Adams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Town Councilors, Mr. Town Manager, and guests and residents of Southbridge. Just as you're well aware, every 6 months we're required to brief the Town Council on our initiative for the 2 parks here, one across the street by the fire station, the War Memorial Park, and the other one is over at Dresser Memorial Park over there across from Oak Ridge Cemetery. Apologize, I could not make it in the month of May, which would have been the 6 months, but I came down with COVID and didn't want to infect anybody else who was sitting in the chambers, especially that long night of budget hearings. So anyways, this is our 6-month brief, and our next one will be in the month of November of 2022 as well. I will keep this short because I know we have a plethora of agenda items this evening to get to. I just want to let everybody know that the engineer study over at Dresser Park has been complete. So we're in the final design phase of Dresser, and we're in the final design phase of the park across the street as well. So we're moving along pretty quickly, and it's been going pretty well for the Veterans Council and the town of Southbridge as well. We continue to brief private organizations, businesses, not-for-profit organizations, not just here in the town of Southbridge, but throughout the state of Massachusetts. We have already spoke with Senator Fatman and Representative Durant on multiple occasions, and we also received support, obviously, from those 2 individuals, but we also have received support from Senator Ed Markey as well. I do want to note that we received in the last 6 months 2 new monument requests to take in. One from the Polish American veterans, who will be dissolving, unfortunately, very soon. And they have asked us, the Veterans Council, to take on the Polish American Veterans Monument itself and bring it down. And they just recently donated some funds to help move that monument down to Dresser when Dresser is ready to take it. Another one, Ms. Morrissey over at the library, had informed me that there is a Jewish monument, World War II monument or plaque, that had been in safeguard with a young lady who was the executor of the church that we had down here. I believe it was on Elm Street many, many years ago, or Everett, forgive me. But they wanted to find a home for that plaque. And so she gave me a call, and we went ahead and accepted that plaque as well. So we have to find a home for that as well, and which will be at Dresser Park. So as we have moved forward, some of these plaques and monuments have started to come forward throughout the town, which has been a really good thing for the town itself, so we can still understand and remember our history within this great place we call Southbridge. We recently, just for FYI, we do not provide donor names or anything like that because we are a private 501(c)(3) in a sense, not-for-profit organization, unless that organization requests us to do so. So if anybody's interested to find out, you can go on the Veterans Council Facebook page, where we have thanked anonymous individuals and organizations, but we've also thanked organizations
that wanted their name out there and individuals that wanted their name out there as well. So far, we've raised a little over about $47,000 to $48,000. We also have a promise of another $60,000 coming our way very soon, but I won't count that until it's in the bank. So we do appreciate those individuals that are donating, but I just wanted to let you know where we're at financially. And we are earmarking those funds specifically for this initiative. So it doesn't go to raising money for flags or anything else like that, or solar lights for the flag poles or anything. It is strictly for the initiative. We keep a good count of our funds. And of course, we do a 990 every single year for our not-for-profit organization. So far, we've spent about $8,000. That went through the survey, obviously our design as well, conceptual design. We will be spending another $10,000 to pay for the engineering study that has just recently been completed the last 2 weeks. We are also going to be raising funds through coins. So what the Veterans Council decided to do was to take every monument that we have in this town, a veterans monument that has in this town, and actually make a collector's coin out of it. So I'm waiting for those to come in. We've ordered our first one, which will be the hiker monument. The next one will be the GAR monument. And we'll see how that fundraising goes. Though it's not large amounts of money that we'd raise from it, but I thought it'd be pretty interesting to collect these coins, especially for the younger kids to understand where it's coming from. And when we do get those coins in, I'll explain what that coin means when it comes to veterans and the military. Lastly, I just want to thank everybody who attended the Memorial Day Parade. I know it's not on the initiative, but the Memorial Day Parade for the third year in a row was a different route. So since the pandemic, we do plan on making it much bigger next year as we move along, but the route will probably pretty much stay the same. And it hits all those monuments within town except for the hiker monument, which will be moved in 2024, or the spring of 2024, part of the TIF project. At this point in time, I'll take any questions you may have. If not, I will sit down. Thank you.
I'd just like to say thank you for your work and for the work of your committee and the committee members. It's really a very honorable and important job that you're doing, and I know that I personally think it's great, so thank you.
Thank you.
Very good. Presentation B, the MVP Consultants presentation.
Can everyone hear?
Yep.
All right, excellent. Good evening, everyone. My name is Mary Kate Schneeweiss. I'm an environmental specialist with Beals & Thomas. So for the past 6 months or so, Beals & Thomas team has been working with the town of Southbridge to complete the Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness process. So I'm going to be telling you a little bit about some of the background about how this planning process came to be. I'm going to turn it over to Eric to discuss some of the results of this resiliency planning process, and then I'll bring it back at the end to talk about kind of what the action items moving forward are. So, I got a little bit ahead of myself, but the Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness Program was established by the Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs through, I believe, the Environmental Bond Bill. And what this process does is it provides monies to municipalities in the Commonwealth to plan for and then undertake actions to mitigate the effects of climate change. And what this program does is it puts the planning process in the hands of the municipalities who are the most aware of how the impacts will affect them. So what I'm a municipal vulnerability preparedness provider. So I have received training from the state in terms of how to best engage the stakeholders of the planning process and talk about actions resulting from strengths and vulnerabilities unique to the town of Southbridge. So I received that training from the state back in 2018, which was another avenue funded by this environmental bond bill. At the same time, this bill set aside monies for the town, all towns in Massachusetts actually, to conduct what is called the MVP planning process by going through the Community Resilience Building Guide. So that is a guide that was written by the Nature Conservancy that attempts to provide a very broad cross-section of community input in order to reach consensus on the climate-related issues that are most important to the community. So once we have the trained provider, myself, and the town with a grant from the state, the town used that money to hire us to facilitate this process. We are currently in the last step of the process right now, and we're here to present the results of several months of workshops and report writing to you. So the goal of this program is eventually to have every municipality in the Commonwealth have a climate action plan that will help them mitigate the effects of climate change for the resources that are most important to them and for the hazards that affect them the most. So the idea being a coastal community may be more affected by sea level rise and coastal erosion, an inland community may be more concerned about snowfall, tornadoes, things like that. So it puts the power in the hands of the community for the planning process. So as part of this process, we undertook 2 workshops in April. The workshops were made up of, I believe, about 70 individuals from a broad cross-section of the community. We invited municipal government officials. We invited some community stakeholders. For instance, the faith-based groups in town had invitations, and some local businesses as well. The intent being to get as many people come to the table as possible. Once everyone was at the table, the objectives of the workshop were to define the extreme weather and natural and climate-related hazards that most impact the town. We selected 4 from what the state lists as the most likely climate-related hazards will impact statewide. We identified existing and future vulnerabilities and strengths that are unique to the town. Based on those strengths and vulnerabilities, we developed an action that would either enhance a strength or mitigate a vulnerability in light of future climate change. And then, based on that action, identifying the opportunities for the community to advance actions and reduce risk. So this was based in a large group, small group, large group exercise where, as a large group, these stakeholders agreed on the top hazards that were facing Southbridge. Then they broke down into smaller groups to discuss the specific actions. The groups met together to present the actions that they had developed, and then at the end of the workshop, voted on the top 5 actions that were Southbridge's top priorities to address climate change and the risks of it. So, the hazards that we agreed upon as a large group in the first workshop that most affect Southbridge were extreme heat, drought, and wildfire, inland flooding, extreme precipitation and related effects, erosion and related effects of extreme precipitation, winter weather and extreme cold, and tornadoes and high winds. And I'm going to turn it over to Eric for a little bit to give some of the local perspective on these issues.
Good evening, everyone. So as Mary Kate said, the first item that we had identified is extreme heat and drought. As you can see by the map here, the National Weather Service is showing pretty much all of New England and much of the mid-Atlantic states as the seasonal temperature outlook being above normal, which leads to things like major crop failures, increases wildfire, and drought. So quite simply, that's where we're at. Inland flooding was a major issue. I know we had the flood of 55, 38 hurricane, and then more recently, we had a 100-year storm in 2015. I believe there was another one just a couple of years ago. If not, it was very close to the 100-year storm. And just last year, we had a storm that dropped about 3 inches of rain on the town in a less than 24-hour period, which is not quite a 100-year storm, but it's pretty darn close. So, as a result of that, we have all of the streams and rivers here in town that are of concern. We have high hazard dams that are of a concern that we need to potentially address in the future as we have things such as inland flooding increasing due to increased precipitation, which leads to erosion. I know you all are familiar with the solar fields on Dresser Hill and the issues that we've had with erosion on those sites and many others here in town. Where we have large areas of exposed soils, we have issues, especially as we get increased precipitation. Where we have things where we do not have proper erosion controls and proper stormwater controls, which leads to winter weather is another big issue. As we get more precipitation, in the winter, more freezing. Again, I'm sure Matt could tell you all that the town has had numerous occasions where they've had to scrape water off the road that's frozen become ice. So we do have these potential difficulties of interruption of critical utility services, difficulty of accessing sites and roads in town. And, our housing stock is fairly old. And with that comes poorly insulated buildings. So therefore, we have potential risk to our vulnerable populations. Of course, high winds and tornadoes. There have been numerous tornadoes and hurricanes here in town. The full report actually details several of them. For example, the 2011 hurricane, which hit the Municipal Airport, Brookside Road, Charlton Street, and Harrington Road neighborhoods. I know we've all seen the destruction that tornadoes wield. As climate change increases and we get increased high winds and tornadoes, these are things that we need to try to figure out how to address. So again, here's our major drainage basin in town is the Quinnipiac Basin. So here we have temperature increases annually from 13.36 days above 90 to 22.19 days above 90 by 2050. In addition to that, we have not colder winters necessarily. However, the increase in temperature does increase precipitation, which does increase potential for erosion and freezing and interruptions and things like that. As well as in the summer, we're looking at a increase of the number of days that are dry. So as we went through the process, we had maybe 20 or so items for all of the participants to choose from, and these are our top priority actions that we developed from this. Number one, evaluate the capacity of drainage infrastructure at roadways to improve the capacity, equipment, and resources of the municipal separate storm sewer system. Many of our culverts and drainage ways are grossly undersized for current conditions. Never mind conditions that are coming in the future where we get increased precipitation and increased stormwater flows. Action number two, evaluate the capacity and condition of culverts, bridges, and underground streams and prioritize their improvement or replacement. Again, as these items are undersized, especially underground streams that we have that have been piped, Nuisance Brook, Cohasset Brook, etc. We have potential increased vulnerability for flooding. If the rotary, which Cohasset Brook runs right underneath the rotary, if that floods and backs up, causes a major issue, we've lost a major throughway in and out of town, which would affect access during emergencies and evacuations. Action item number three, evaluate a moratorium on ground-mounted solar arrays that involves significant land clearing and revise solar bylaw to better protect against erosion. Again, I know I mentioned the Dresser Hill solar fields. These are becoming a greater nuisance in some aspects than they are a benefit to the town. What the town is looking at now and currently is the potential for canopy and rooftop-based solar systems. We've entertained a potential for a canopy-based solar system. Solar carport, actually. And, when that application comes before you, before the planning board, I would encourage participation from, from everyone here and the audience at large. Item number 4, facilitate additional tree plantings through Opakam Land Trust 1,000 Tree Initiative and enhance communication and participation in the program. Opakam Land Trust had this 1,000 Tree Initiative, and they have reached out to several of our landowners in town with some success and some difficulties. We've had some issues with awareness in landowners with having to water trees and things like that to keep them alive. However, we did plant several trees in the Central Street parking lot, and they are thriving. They were watered by volunteers and staff here in town, and this is year 2 or 3 of those trees, and they all look great. And finally, action item number 5, facilitate acquisition of farmland and investigate additional protections for privately owned forested and undeveloped land. This item protects property from development pressure and ensures local food production in the future. This town has acres of farmland and forest that is, just absolutely wonderful. I mean, you look at 3/4 of the town is essentially forested or is farm fields. That should be preserved, and a lot of it will be. We have the watershed protection areas and things like that, but I think the town and the state programs and things can go further, and we need to look at capitalizing on those. And with that, I'm going to turn things back over to Mary Kate.
Hi, everyone. All right, so now that you've gotten a sense of what the planning process has been, I want to talk a little bit about what's going to be the next steps moving forward for the town. So once the town has submitted their final summary of findings report to the state, they're going to be designated an MVP climate community. And that is going to make you eligible to apply for MVP action grants. These grants fund projects that were identified as priority actions through this planning process. So there's a number of different categories, but the MVP action grants prioritize projects that involve nature-based solutions. So for instance, the Opakam Land Trust's tree planting initiative that attempts to use vegetation to mitigate effects of the heat island effect and flooding would be right in line with the intent of the program. Also acquisition of land that may be protected. Also designing infrastructure to future climate conditions, not just the current expected conditions. These are all projects that would be eligible for an MVP action grant. They also prioritize projects that conduct outreach to and heavily involve marginalized communities in the town. So we had done some of that outreach as part of the stakeholder process, and hopefully in identifying them as stakeholders, they will continue to be involved in the process. So the next round of action grant funding is anticipated for next spring 2023. To give you a sense of the sorts of projects that were funded by the state in recent grant rounds and in areas that are near the town, you can see in this there is a lot of infrastructure and stormwater-based projects, which was a top concern that came up at all of the groups that participated in the workshop. There was also projects related to water quality and including resiliency and comprehensive municipal planning efforts such as the master plan, as well as energy resiliency. There was some discussion at the groups of evaluating rooftop solar on municipal buildings. So there's many projects that were in the list, not just those 5 that we presented as the top actions, that could be eligible for future action grants. In addition to the MVP action grants, being designated as an MVP climate community improves the town's standing when applying for a grant in another program that overlaps with an action that's identified in this report. So tonight we are just presenting the results of the planning process. Tomorrow we are actually going to be publishing the draft summary of findings report, which has all of the actions and all of the discussion that occurred in the workshops. We're hoping to take whatever feedback we get tonight and whatever comments on the draft report are given to us over the next 2 weeks and incorporate it into a final report. That report will then be submitted to EEA, the Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs, to signal that the grant has been completed, which will then make the town eligible for the next round of grant funding. I understand that this presentation is being recorded and will be available online for the public to review. The draft report will also be available on the town's website, and we'll be taking comments for a period of 2 weeks. So if you do have any comments, I'm happy to answer preliminary ones here tonight, and then future comments direct towards Eric so we can memorialize them in the final report. But with that, I'm interested in any preliminary questions the council may have.
Councilor Adams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, be brief. Thank you so much, first of all, for all the hard work you and everybody else is doing on this program. Quick question, though. I know Opacum Land Trust has 1,000 trees through the U.S. Forest Service and stuff like that. We got that a couple years ago, and I know it really wasn't pushed out really too hard as it is being now.
Right.
Would you have any say on how we can extend that program out as we move forward?
That's a good question. I cannot speak to whether the existing grant sources could be extended, but if the town were interested in taking the MVP action grant opportunity to partner with Opacum and then apply to continue the program, I think that's something that could definitely be considered. I think that would be in line with the sorts of projects that they do in the future. Again, I can't say if the existing source of funding could be extended, but I think it's definitely worth investigating a partnership.
And I don't want to take away the fact that the first year was, it was trial and error trying to figure this whole thing out. And there was a lot of good people who did a lot of good work and busted their behinds to make what they could happen. I do know now they're out at every festival, every opportunity they can be in the public eye. Opacum is out there, so I appreciate what they're doing right now. I just feel that 1,000 trees is unattainable at this point in time, but maybe a couple more years, it could be.
Yeah, I think that's definitely something you could investigate. And I will just put in a plug for the MVP regional coordinator, Andrew Smith, who I think would be happy to talk with anyone from the town about the future action grants. I don't believe they can give input on a grant once the cycle is open, but if you have a question on a grant before it opens up, I believe he would be the person to speak to.
Thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Say again?
That's all I have. Thank you.
Great. Any other questions?
Councilor Marchetti.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you. I just have a couple of real quick questions. You have here the dam failures, 18 dams total, 3 are high hazard. Westville Dam is one of them. I was just wondering what is the high hazard at Westville Dam?
Good question. So high hazard is a designation that's actually given by the Department of Conservation and Recreation, DCR. They are the authority that regulates dams in the Commonwealth. So a high hazard dam does not necessarily mean it's a dam in imminent danger of failure at this time. It means that in the event that it does fail, it would have a significant impact on loss of life, loss of roadway, anything downstream. So it's based on the potential for failure, which might include the volume of water that it's impounding and any high-value structures and communities that are located downstream. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Great.
I have another question. On the Massachusetts climate change projections, you have here precipitation is increasing and drought is increasing.
Yes.
So I was wondering, how can you have both? Increased precipitation and increased drought?
Yeah, so very good question. So there's sort of a couple things that are interacting here. As the temperature, the ambient temperature increases, the warmer air has the ability to hold more moisture. So while there is a period that may be much longer without rain, the dry air can hold more moisture overall, so that when it does rain, those events become much more intense. So that's kind of the main interaction. I'm simplifying it just a little bit, but the idea being, because the air can hold more moisture, and because when the ground is dry, oftentimes it's easier to erode than it is to absorb the heat. All of these hazards that were identified are going to worsen. Make sense?
Yep, thank you.
Fantastic.
And the last thing is, I was recently out of town, and when I came back, I drove from Boston to Southbridge, and as I was going along the Mass Pike, I saw that there were a lot of solar arrays on the Mass Pike on areas that are already cleared.
Yes.
And I thought that was an excellent use of open land, putting the solar panels on those areas. So in my mind, I thought, well, why can't we do that here in Southbridge on areas that are already cleared? I do agree that there should be better protection against erosion, but I favor solar panels. I think it's better than coal, it's better than nuclear, it's better than all of that, so why not use solar, but be keeping in mind the erosion problems. And also, correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought that you could not have a moratorium on solar arrays in Massachusetts.
You cannot have essentially, I believe, what is a permanent moratorium, like a moratorium without an end. I believe you, and I hope I'm not going to stick my foot in my mouth later, but I believe you can place a bounded moratorium, so a 1 year with the intent of developing a bylaw. I believe that is permissible, but I would definitely welcome council input on that if that's something that is in question. I think not to speak for the town, I think the intent of this was to not necessarily stop solar construction altogether, but to direct it towards areas like what you were seeing alongside the Pike, area that's cleared, that's never going to be forested, and as well as rooftops, carports, and not to cut large areas of trees that exacerbate erosion and have a number of other effects, like releasing a one-time, because trees sequester so much carbon, releasing a one-time amount of carbon into the atmosphere. So, Eric, would you co-sign what I just said? All right.
Yes, the purpose of any moratorium that might be proposed would be only on items that involve significant land clearing, which would obviously have to be defined and spelled out in any potential bylaw. At this point in time, that's not an action item that the planning board is currently working on. However, I would assume that it will happen in the future. The focus then would switch from ground-mounted solar in forested areas to potentially ground-mounted solar in fields, or solar on carports, or solar on rooftops. There are large-scale solar operations. For years, the largest solar operation in New England was on a building top. So it's only really recent that ground-mounted solar in New England has been a major player in the energy production game.
All right, thank you. Thank you for your hard work. Appreciate it.
All set?
Yep.
Great. Counsel Lazo.
On priority action 3 with the evaluate the moratorium, I'm one of the councilors that's sorry here, voted for the solar fields where they are. We were approached, I was chairman of a building committee on the new high school to put the solar panels on the roof. The construction company that constructed the school said you would lose the warranty on your roofing. They were all rubber roofs. and they have to mount them into the flat roofs. So we had issues. We said, don't put them on the brand-new school. So they put them on the forest where the old landfill was in Dresser Hill, and I personally think that they massacred the hillside. And in doing that, created downstream flow, which damaged residents' property, created a lot of animosity on who owns a pipe, there's not a right-of-way, and then it ends up costing the taxpayers a lot of money to remedy what happened with the installation of the actual solar field. So my understanding is that we can put a moratorium on temporarily to beef up the bylaw where these things don't happen, or make them responsible for the downflow. Say there is drainage on the Dresser Hill project. They have a very large hill. We had a rainstorm and they had problems with the retention ponds. And then it ended up washing out people's properties. And the solar people tried to be very accommodating. But in the end, you had a lot of angry residents. And you have the town reevaluating their drain pipe size, whether we can dump water on someone else's land. Created a lot of animosity in town. So moving forward, I was kind of happy to see this, where we probably should have did a better job before the solar fields were installed. And now that they're here, I don't know where they're going to go, but when we built the high school and we had the ball fields and the parking areas and everything, and it was nestled in a forest. And now when you go to the ball fields, it looks like someone just stripped the land, threw it in, and that was it. So I'm not a big fan. I'm sorry that I voted for the solar and to put it where it is now. How we correct that moving forward is the art of government. Thank you.
Very good. Eric?
Just as a quick point of clarification, there are several solar fields that the town owns the property of and leases to various individuals. We have had zero issues with erosion with those. In my mind, and in doing several inspections on those, they were installed correctly, and the designs for those fields was done correctly, whereas the other fields had some deficiencies.
Very good. Anyone else? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and we look forward to your comments on the report.
Great. Thank you, Eric.
Thank you.
Item C is the town manager's year in review presentation. I've been asked to move that to item number 35 to be presented in conjunction with item number 35. And without objection from the council, I'd like to move it to item number 35. Okay, thank you. Moving on. Item number 8, Citizens Forum. Are there any citizens here tonight that would like to address the council on any issue not on tonight's agenda?
Hi, Maureen Doyle, 771 Lebanon Hill Road. I'm a limited participant in the LNG construction that's going on Worcester Street, and I just wanted to reach out. I've done this before, but I just wanted to reach out. If anybody has any issues with or complaints about the blasting that's been going on, you can call me, and I'll be happy to relay that information to the appropriate channels. Because I'm in contact with some people from the Department of Energy through being a limited participant. So, so that's one avenue. If you have praise or complaints or whatever, my number is 508-764-8042. Thanks.
Thank you, Maureen. Are there any other citizens that would like to approach the podium to speak on an issue not on tonight's agenda? Not seeing anyone. Let's move on, please. Item number 9, vote to approve a contract financial analyst / American Rescue Plan Act ARPA administrator in the amount of $135,000 paid over a 2.5-year period through local ARPA funds.
So moved.
Second.
Councilor Adams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this will be the first of many motions that we have with the ARPA funds that we received. Just feedback, we received a little over $5 million. We've spent about $1.6 million so far through various motions at the Town Council. But this is the first time that the ad hoc committee has brought forward 5 motions in front of the Town or 5 motions in front of the Town Council. So please bear with us as we move this along. All 5, the following agenda items were unanimously voted in favor to send to the Town Council. It is not our job, I don't believe, to say no and keep it within house. I think it's we should recommend to the Town Council for your vote as we push forward with this. So this first vote was brought to our attention from Karen Hanoi. She is obviously looking for somebody at this point in time to be able to administer some of these funds. So it wouldn't be the decision of that person, this administrator, to make on spending the funds. It would be how they were spent and the reporting requirements. So let me give you, I know all the town councilors have this description, but I just wanted to go over for the public. ARPA administrator would be responsible to oversee the recovery, disbursement, reconciliation, planning, and accounting to all federal funding relative to the city or the town's COVID-19 pandemic response. Funding and management include, but not limited to, the FEMA reimbursements, coronavirus relief fund, CARES Act, and and the ARPA. Position funded from ARPA is not, or the position will be funded by ARPA and is not expected to continue after the program's expiration. Currently, right now, it's December of 2024. So we have to earmark that money by December of 2024 and spent by 2026, if I'm not mistaken. So this individual, whoever it may be, as of right now, it'd be a 2.5-year period where this individual would not only just take care of the ARPA funds, but would also be able to help Karen and the treasurer with some of the items that have fallen behind due to the pandemic, due to some of the closures, due to the movement of the treasurer themselves. And so we're looking for your support in this. I will state that the next 4 agenda items after this would be responsible to answering to this administrator. So, example, we have the United Way, YMCA that are going in front of us this evening. As we come in there, we want to specifically use these funds for residents of Southbridge. So this individual would come up with the spreadsheet, would come up with the reporting requirements, and who would report to either to the ad hoc committee or the town council in the near future. So it wouldn't be the ad hoc committee would be responsible of giving the United Way of say how to spend this money, or to come up with a spreadsheet to how to spread this money. It'd be up to the ARPA administrator to do that and provide that to the town council down the road as these monies are being spent. And if I miss anything, I know Karen is in the crowd as well. And our town manager. And I just want to thank Councilor Steves and town manager. Councilor Marchetti's at every meeting. I want to thank you for the input that we were receiving so far, and it's been very productive.
Councilor Marchetti.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you. I was wondering if it might be wise to add before the total dollar amount, the words up to $135,000. That would keep it consistent with all the other.
I have no problem with that at all. Just to make a friendly amendment to it.
Yeah. If that would be okay with everybody, a friendly amendment, up to $135,000.
Is that in the form of amendment?
We can do this a friendly amendment. We don't have
Just
to.
a friendly amendment if you want, or I'll make it in the form of an actual amendment.
I would.
Okay, I'd like to make the amendment then, to add the
Accepted.
words
Second.
up to $135,000.
Second.
I second that amendment.
Very good. Discussion on the amendment. All those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous of all present. The motion is amended. Very good. Continuing discussion on the main motion. Councilor,
Thank you. Through you, just so I'm clear, and it does say it here, but just again, it's for all reimbursements, the FEMA, the CARES Act, and ARPA, to administer all those. And I just, personally, I'd like to thank Karen, our finance director, for all the hard work that she did, especially at the beginning of the pandemic, when we were first going through this, working with us. With the reporting requirements, we added a lot to that department's plate to keep track of it all. Her, TJ Edwards from the fire department. So I think it is a valuable tool to assist that. Just to make sure that we're compliant, I think that's going to be the biggest challenge that the town manager and the finance department are going to have with all the regulations that keep changing as to what can and cannot be. Given all the daily duties that that department has to have that set of eyes for that volume of money that we're talking about, I think I certainly will support this. Thank you.
very good. Council Steves.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. 2 points that I probably should have thought of during our subcommittee meetings, but I didn't think of it. One is I do support doing this, but I do want to make sure that we try to make sure that this person doesn't become like a permanent fixture here in Town Hall. I know the plan is to have them be done in 2.5 years, but with all of that long list of things that they're going to be handling, and the way the federal government and the state government has a tendency to keep things going, unless they can also arrange to make sure that we can keep paying these people from these grant monies, then we need to make sure that we actually do term limit this person. And the other question that I wanted to point out is that under the education section, I would like to see some element there saying that they have some experience in dealing with public grant administration, because it doesn't actually say that. That may be something different from public accounting, for example.
Mr. Manager.
I didn't hear Councilor Steve's last comment.
I said that I think it would be a good idea that under education to include a clear reference to public grant administration, because it doesn't say that.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, members of the council, I just want to throw in there, we probably also should have prefaced before all these articles that when the Treasury promulgated the final rule for the ARPA funds, it changed and simplified everything by creating what's now referred to as a standard allowance for lost revenue calculation, allowing cities and towns to elect this standard allowance for up to $10 million of lost revenue. So for towns like Southbridge that only had $5 million in grant money coming in, that is well below the standard allowance, which gives us much more flexibility and discretion in how to use our funds. So if you recall, when we first started looking at these last year, when we were getting our first tranche of funds, it was really limited to infrastructure, water, sewer, cable, some direct relief for the pandemic. But now we're allowed to look at other things and to expand upon what you can do in the community. So I just want to make remind everybody what it is we're doing and how we're allowed to do it, so there isn't anybody at home saying, I thought we could only spend it on these 4 categories. Now, in light of this new final rule, we have much more flexibility. So that's why we're allowed to spend outside those areas.
Very good. Anyone else? Okay. All those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous of all present. Item number 10, vote to approve providing the United Way of South Central Massachusetts with up to $150,000 paid through local ARPA funds to administratively support Southbridge programs that support strictly Southbridge residents, such as Open Sky, St. Luke's House, and Catholic Charities, and distribution of such funds will be overseen by the town's ARPA administrator.
So moved.
Second. Discussion. Council Marquetti.
You didn't want to go first?
I'll go first if you don't mind.
Okay,
No, I don't
please.
mind at all.
If you don't mind, real quick. First of all, we do have representative of every group that is on this agenda this evening here.
And so we have United Way here as well to speak further, because I don't want to butcher anything that you have briefed us on, but I'll take a shot at it. So first of all, I want to thank Councilor Marchetti who brought this forward. Part of the ARPA funds is to help with sometimes rent, sometimes homelessness, sometimes all these things that could have happened because of COVID, the pandemic that came down the pike. And so he reached out and reached out to multiple organizations, and we received some of their requests. So this specifically isn't just for these three entities. So it could be any type of not-for-profit organization that the United Way usually helps out and supports, but they're going to be our administrator of these funds. I know we just approved an ARPA administrator, but the United Way would report to our town's ARPA administrator as well. So, and then we'll work closely to set up that spreadsheet. So part of this is to help with the homelessness, with the shelters, sometimes in cases rent, utilities, and stuff like that, that they see fit based on the guidelines that the ARPA administrator has required them to. So one thing that we discussed at the meeting, it's $150,000. It's the largest amount we've requested so far within the ad hoc committee. Not all $150,000 is going to go up in one lump sum. What it'll be is there will be required benchmarks here and there. So it may be 75 at the very beginning to see where the need is, and we can redistribute those funds if needed to other organizations, but we'll keep a close eye on it as we track it in the near future. So I'll pass it on over to Councilor Marchetti if you don't mind, but this is some of the things that we did discuss. They gave a great presentation of the needs of our town, and it has to be strictly residents of our town for these funds, period. It can't be, I understand, they support and they administrate a lot of money throughout the region, but it would be strictly for Southbridge residents, and of course through the spreadsheet and working with the ARPA administrator, whoever that may be, that'll be just one of the requirements to oversee. So, Mr. Chair, if you don't mind, I'll pass it on over to Councilor Marquette.
Certainly.
So thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you. When ARPA funding first came out, I noticed that the funding could be made available for public service. As the town manager said, water and sewer and broadband infrastructure, public health and economic response. So I approached the ARPA committee and I asked, could we devote some of the funding towards local nonprofit social service organizations? The ARPA committee said that fine, but you're going to have to provide us with a detailed proposal and a total fund request. So I reached out to several local service agencies such as Salvation Army, Trade Winds, the Methodist Church on Main Street, Catholic Charities, and I was eventually directed towards United Way. And United Way seemed like a logical choice to me, so I met with Mary O'Coin, who is the executive director of the United Way of South Central Mass. And Mary told me of the various agencies they support, such as St. Luke's Guest House, Catholic Charities, Open Sky, and any other nonprofit Southbridge organization that wanted to provide social services for residents. So I explained to Mary that I would need a detailed proposal and a dollar amount, and she said to me, and I quote, "This is what I do." So Ms. O'Coin put together a very detailed proposal. I presented it to the committee. The committee then interviewed Mary and voted to provide United Way of South Central Mass with the funding request on tonight's agenda. And I would like to thank Ms. O'Coin for putting together that very comprehensive proposal and, of course, for providing assistance to nonprofit organizations in Southbridge. Thank you.
Very good. Councilor Adams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to point out, they're a perfect entity to do something like this that Councilor Marchetti had brought up, and the fact that the brief that we received, and it's a no-brainer that we would do this, and they're not asking for 5% or 1% of any of the funds that we receive. They administer these funds, and they know exactly where to go to, and the fact is that their reach is so great that this will only help within our community itself. One of the questions was, if we fund this now, is there a requirement down the road to fund it again?
Well, this is all only ARPA. This is a one-time shot at this point in time. So as of right now, I would be safe to say absolutely not. But that also, I think this organization has proved itself a pillar of our community, and I fully support this wholeheartedly. Thank you.
Council Lazo, then Council Ryan.
You couldn't give it to a better organization. I'm going to support this here tonight. I commend Ms. O'Coin, along with the Councilor, I always forget your name, Councilor Adams, but I'm just kidding. Councilor Adams, you do a lot of work in town, and I think another committee. You did a great job, and I think Mike, Councilor, you've done a fine job picking the right organization to do the right thing. So you have my support 110%. Thank you.
Council Ryan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you. Again, another echo the same thanks to Councilor Adams and Councilor Marchetti. This is the type of good direct work that we can have in Southbridge and really provide some sort of direct assistance to those who may be struggling with COVID, having struggles with having financial assistance to get through, because a lot of employers still require people to take mandatory leave when they get sick because they don't want to have to spread for their, but unfortunately now it's not paid, so this would provide an opportunity for those who may be struggling to get assistance. So thank you, Councilor Marchetti. Thank you, Councilor Adams. This is really good work.
Ms. O'Coin, is there anything you'd like to say?
I just want to thank the council members here and the town of Southbridge for giving us this opportunity to help you out through the ARPA funds. It is exactly what I said to Councilor Marchetti. This is what I do every day. I administer the funds to other nonprofits. I make sure that they're doing the job that they say that they're going to do. They provide the programs and the services that are so necessary. I am able to specifically gear it towards Southbridge without any problems. It is all something I have spreadsheets for and applications and reporting. So at any time you'll be able to reach out to me and get the information that you're looking for.
Great.
Thank you.
All set? Yep. Great. Councilor
Can I
Adams.
just make one comment real quick? Councilor Steves has been instrumental, and also the town manager, of giving us sound advice as we've gone through this whole process. And I'm kind of disappointed in Councilor Lazo for forgetting my name, especially when I show up to meetings, unlike somebody else. Thank you.
Very good. There being no further discussion, all those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous of all present.
Mr. Chairman?
Councilor Joanne.
Thank you. On the next two items, items 11 and 12, I will hereby recuse myself from any discussion or participation in these two items as I serve on the Board of Governors for the YMCA. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Very good. Item number 11, vote to approve providing the Tri-Valley YMCA with up to $50,000 paid through local ARPA funds to administer the What's for Dinner program, which will be strictly used to Southbridge residents, and distribution of such funds will be overseen by the town's ARPA administrator.
Second.
Councilor Adams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Another organization that was brought to us by Councilor Marchetti. They requested 3 items. We are bringing 2 to you this evening. And one of the 2 is this What's for Dinner social program. So it was great that a great brief that we received the other day on how this whole program started and the whole purpose behind this program in the first place. The program is currently serving about 30 teens daily at the Y for the recreational. Make sure I get it wrong. Nope, I got it wrong. Sorry. This program provides weekly meal kits to the community members free of charge. Currently, the Y provides 150 meal kits to the community. The kits include the ingredients, recipe, nutrition, information for one family dinner. So, and just a caveat of what the United Way had talked about, they also help support this program itself. I do believe, and if I mess it up, I apologize,
it started off as trying to get families back together at the dinner table during this period of the pandemic, and where they would have the ingredients and they would be able to have a conversation in the evening and just bring that family dynamic back to the house. Obviously, it has grown tremendously. It's big. It's been very successful for them, and we highly recommend, again, this program be approved by the town council. Thank you.
Council Steves.
I just want to add to that, during the course of the discussion, I think it was Glenn who pointed out that the program has been running at a bit of a deficit because it's so popular, and that there's, with all the people that have been involved in it and taking advantage of it, it needs extra support.
Anyone else? I know some people that are beneficiaries of this program, and they are very, very grateful for the program being run. It definitely makes a difference in their lives, and they are thoroughly thankful for that benefit.
Agreed.
Is there anything you'd like to say?
Good evening, everyone, and thank you very much for your consideration. You know, this program really started off as something fun to get people to cook and learn about nutritional value of the food that we're providing for them. It's really expanded into addressing food insecurity. We are anticipating next year we'll be servicing probably close to 8,500 meals to folks in the town of Southbridge. There's no charge. We're very fortunate that United Way helps support that program as well. We work with Big Bunny to reduce our costs to get some food at affordable prices. Cost of food is really gone kind of crazy for all of us, so any support you can help us to deliver these meals to the families would be greatly appreciated.
Very good. Anyone else? Very good. All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Unanimous of all present. Item number 12, vote to approve providing the Tri-Valley YMCA, should that be Tri-Community? Tri-Community, right? Yeah. We'll amend that. Friendly amendment, please.
Okay.
Thank you. Vote to approve providing the Tri-Community YMCA with up to $50,000 paid through local ARPA funds to administer the Teen Center Workforce Development Program, which will be strictly used for Southbridge residents, and distribution of such funds will be overseen by the town's ARPA administrator.
So moved.
Second.
Vice Chair Adams.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Another great organization as the other two. Councilor Marchetti had brought this organization again to us to take into consideration. I will go over what we had discussed. The program is currently serving about 30 teens daily at the Y for recreational, educational, and mentoring support. In addition, the Y runs 2 teen nights a month, currently serving a total of about 250 teens. Operational support grew from the program and provides supplies is greatly needed. So this is another social program where it brings in our youth, our next generation, and like many of us, the YMCA was a home I know for me, for quite some time, and it built up some of the values and morals that I have at this point in time in my life, and I think if this was done more often in other Ys or other places, I think we'd be on a good track here in the United States when it comes to our youth. And I just appreciate them, before we vote on this, thank you for actually reaching out to that youth because we so sorely need it here within not only our community, but throughout the region. So thank you.
Council Lazo.
Just a quick comment. All three of them outstanding. Council Marchetti, your outreach. I don't know how anybody can vote for you. But in wrapping this up, one of the things that hits my heart and hits my soul is when Councilor Adams constantly says it's about Southbridge. It's for Southbridge. And I really think putting Southbridge first in these agenda items, these three, make it all worthwhile for the programs that these nonprofits run. So again, we're dealing with good people, we're putting it in good hands, and I just commend Councilor Adams and Councilor Marquetti. Thank you.
Very good. Anyone else? No? Okay, very good. All those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous of all present. Item number 13, vote to approve providing the trustees, soldiers, sailors, Marines, and Airmen Memorials Board with up to $15,000 matching funds in support of their 2023 State Historic Records Advisory Board, SHRAB, Veterans Heritage Grant application, which distribution of such funds will be overseen by the town's opera administrator.
So moved.
Second.
Councilor Adams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the next two are a little different than the last three. At this point in time, the Trustees, Soldiers, Sailors, Marines, and Airmen's Memorials Board last year came in front of the Town Council requesting to apply for this SHRAB grant that comes out annually. And what the responsibility of part of these ARPA funds is to continue on with infrastructure work and education. So the last time the Town Council, from my understanding, approved any type of work done on our monuments within the town was in 1995. That last, I think, they received $45,000 to help clean up some of the monuments within our community. So one thing that the trustees, soldiers, sailors, and Marines, I'll tell you the trustees board, is responsible for is the upkeep of these monuments within the town. And as if you drive by a lot of these monuments, they are dilapidated, they are not well maintained, and I think at this point in time when the trustees board had approached me again about bringing this forward, I was willing to listen to that conversation. And what it is this grant, just like it's no different than what you had approved as far as the application itself. They say up to $15,000 because $15,000 can be in-kind donations as well or volunteer work and stuff like that. So I do know the trustees board does do a lot of volunteer time for our monuments. Again, it is an infrastructure project. It is something that should be ongoing every single year, just like we rotate our vehicles within our fleet. And I think that at this point in time, and again, it's another program. It was unanimous 3-0 to recommend to the Town Council for approval.
Very good. Councilor Steves.
Yeah, I probably should have caught this during the meeting, Sue. I don't remember if I saw it or not. But I noticed that the application deadline, final application was January 9th. I'm
Correct.
assuming you're applying for the 2023 cycle.
Yeah. So the application is the next calendar year, but this is ahead of the game at this point in time. If they were to receive $30,000, so there was a quote given just for the 8 neighborhood monuments of those 8 individuals that died in World War I from Southbridge, including the cleaning of the Franco-American plaque, which is about a 500 to 700 pound plaque. It's huge. I've never seen a plaque that big per se, but that alone is about $17,000 to clean all of those monuments. If it is a total of $30,000, it's a $15,000 match. They would be able to clean the World War I monument at the same time and knock all those monuments out in one shot. And reminder, I keep saying education is the history of our town. Thank you.
Anyone else? Very well. All those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous of all present. Item number 14, vote to approve providing the town manager's office with up to $4,500 for public records software application, which distribution of such funds will be overseen by the town's opera administrator.
So moved.
Second.
Councilor Adams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Last one for the evening. So this public records software application, it's here, they're requesting it from the town manager's office, centralized public record requests, and enhanced tracking mechanisms and customer service and satisfaction. This also gives the ability to store information, not to reproduce the documents. So what we got out of the meeting, it was Nor from the town manager's office, town manager himself, who, if I'm not mistaken, has utilized it in his last town. And what this is not trying to reinvent the wheel of multiple spreadsheets. As Freedom of Information Act requests come in, this is something that could be utilized, right online, tracked, recorded, kept for history, and I believe it also gives us some type of ticket number to be able to follow up and some type of reminders as we move forward. As the town council has been supportive of moving forward within our town, get us into this century through HR, through quite a few things that we're doing progressively to enhance our town, this is just another tool to help out.
Very good. Any discussion? Hearing none? I'm sorry, Councilor Dow.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to say thank you, Councilor Adam. I have a couple of more councilors like you in town. The town will become great. I mean, you're doing a lot of work for the veteran, for the town, and I hope more councilors like you working hard. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor.
Councilor Joanne.
Yeah, through you. I think this is a great move for the town of Southbridge. I know in my professional career, I utilize on this platform on a lot of municipalities, and it's a great tool that you get timely information without bothering a lot of people in the town hall. So I think this is a great move to provide another avenue for residents and members to get information quickly and timely. Thank you.
Thank you. Very well. All those in favor? Opposed?
I don't oppose it. I got a comment I want to make after that.
Unanimous of all present. Councilor
Thank you.
Adams wishes to be recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just want to let everybody know the next ARPA meeting is on the 16th of June, where we'll be discussing police, fire, and the library. And we're going to try to keep doing that every single month and then bring it forward to the council. Thank you.
Very good. Before I read the next agenda item, I just want to explain that it was my intent to read the agenda item and then read the names and the terms, the names and the commissions or boards or committees that the people were being appointed to. And then if anyone needed to put a hold on anyone, similar to the way we worked with traffic constables and the budget process, I was thinking we could do that. I'm wondering if that satisfies the needs of the committee or...
Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead.
Go ahead? Okay.
No, I just, for the record,
Yep.
Mr. Chairman, through you, in looking through this list, one of the names, Linda Jowett, at the meeting, it should have been changed as recommended by our board to Linda Langevin-Zonia. It's still listed on this list as Linda Jowett.
We did some research on that, and I was told that the name should be Jowett. I spoke with the executive assistant, and she assures me that it should be Linda Jowett.
Even though her application read a different name?
That's what she told me.
I understand it's the same person,
yeah.
but she signed her application with that name, so, okay.
Okay. Very well. All set? Good. Okay, vote to confirm the following town manager recommended reappointments as listed in the attached document. Helen Boyle, Agricultural Commission, 3 years. Maureen Doyle, Agricultural Commission, 3 years. Richard M. Clements, Airport Commission, 3 years. Elizabeth Stevens, Board of Health, 3 years. Tracy Pallone, Board of Registrar, 3 years. David Adams, Central Mass Regional Planning Commission, 3 years. Joseph Farr, Commission on Disability, 3 years. Sergeant Ryan Retker, Commission on Disability, 3 years. Maureen Doyle, Conservation Commission, 3 years. Kathy Grenier, Council on Aging, 3 years. Renata Kendall, Council on Aging, 3 years. Susan Prue, Council on Aging, 3 years. David Livingood, Economic Development Commission, 3 years. Helen Boyle, Historical Commission, 3 years. David Payer, Planning Board, 3 years. Corey Belrose, Planning Board, 3 years. Terry Hensel, Planning Board, 3 years. Linda Jowett, Southbridge Cultural Commission, 3 years. Theodore Bartlett, Southbridge Cultural Commission, 3 years. Tracy Price, Trustees of Soldiers, Sailors, Marines, and Airmen's Memorial Board, 3 years. Wendy McFarland, Trustees of Soldiers, Sailors, Marines, and Airmen Memorials Board, 3 years. Lynn Bertrand, Zoning Board of Appeals, 3 years. Patrick Spinelli, Zoning Board of Appeals, 3 years. May I have a motion and a second?
Motion.
Thank you. I need a second.
Second.
Thank you. Okay. Council Steves.
Just for clarity, since my partner is on 2 of those appointments, should I abstain from those 2 or just do it all? It's not like she's getting any money off of either of those boards, so.
Council Lazo.
I have a question. Normally, we would have had this as an appointment on the agenda one by one.
Yeah.
If you do not want somebody to be appointed or you want to cherry pick off of this list, how does that work? Do we mention it now?
Yes.
Yep.
And there are people that, I don't know how Dave Adams can vote for Dave Adams, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Exactly.
That's why if it went individually,
Abstain for that one.
like we used to do it, it used to abstain and you could move through it. But I understand I do have an opposition to one I will bring up. Go ahead, Gus.
Okay.
Sorry.
I'm not sure how to go about that. Councilor Joanne.
Yeah, through you. As we discussed at our meeting at the EHS, we had recommended that this perhaps be separated into different categories: the regular boards and commissions, anything that was a quasi-judicial board. I know our recommendation was for the Board of Health because it was a quasi-judicial board. Zoning Board of Appeals, I believe, is a quasi-judicial board.
So
That should be
conservation
separated
planning.
into certain categories so that, given the level of their responsibilities, I certainly understand the desire to move through this because they are very quick, as we've done in the past. I guess, regrettably, our recommendation wasn't accepted and put into this whole list of appointments. But I'll leave it as it may.
Councilor Ryan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, it would be my recommendation that we all go through and we just list whichever individual ones may have an issue with, and then those get held, and then the rest of the document gets approved as is, and we go one by one on the other ones.
That's what I'm saying.
I will start by, if you suggest, because I will say that I would like to abstain on the planning board for Corey Belrose, as she is my direct superior and my employer, so I will be abstaining from that one.
Absolutely. Put a hold on that. Okay. Councilor Lazo.
Is this the time that you would like me to bring up?
Yep.
I would like to bring up the appointment of the Board of Health, Elizabeth Stevens.
Okay. Any others?
The only one.
Okay, very good.
And I've already
Councilor
not
Steves.
mentioned the 2 for Maureen Doyle because I'm her partner.
I'm sorry.
We can't hear
I
Councilor
said I've already
Steves.
mentioned the 2 for Maureen Doyle because I'm her partner. So.
Hold. Good. All right. Well, I guess we can move forward on those candidates that are not held.
Right.
And we'll go on from there. Mr. Adams will hold your appointment as well.
Yep.
That's fine.
Okay. Mr. Manager.
No, that's all I was going to bring to your attention, that perhaps Mr.
I just
Adams
want-
should be held up.
I do want to make note, Mr. Chair, just real quick, that is a one-year appointment, not 3.
Okay.
Okay. Councilor Joanne.
Just to make it as easy as possible, I would recommend that those that are pulled out then are moved to be items 15A, 15B, 15C accordingly as agenda items for purposes of the record.
Very good.
Okay.
Everyone all set with that?
Mhm.
Okay. You just mark those. Very good. So I guess we can say that we would be voting on all those in favor of the remaining candidates who do not have holds on them.
Yep.
Okay? All right, all those in favor of those candidates? Anyone opposed? Unanimous of all present. Very good. Moving to 15A, Agricultural Commission, Maureen Doyle. Is a hold on that?
I just have to abstain.
Okay. All those in favor otherwise? Unanimous of those who can. 15B, Board of Health, Elizabeth Stevens. There's a hold on that. Councilor Lazo, you asked for that.
Yes. The reason why I asked for this, I've been on the council for a few years, and I've been in town forever. This member of the Board of Health, I don't feel is suitable to serve on the Board of Health. There are certain people that you come in contact with in town, and they work for the town of Southbridge, and I think that the way you treat the people hinders whether you should be reappointed again or reelected again. So for myself, we are the check and balance on this position, this person. We've had Board of Health members quit because of her. I experienced a vile attack from her at a meeting to the point where I turned around, I couldn't even believe I was in a public meeting. The way she treats the public, the condescending attitude, I just don't think she belongs on the Board of Health. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else?
So,
Councilor Adams.
thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. I have a laundry list of issues for that individual at this point in time. One is during the pandemic. I believe we're one of maybe only a handful of towns where the Board of Health did not speak and was not the lead when it came to the pandemic. It took the appointment of the chair at the time, Councilor Joanne, to step in, set up an emergency operations center, and from that point in time, we had, I believe it was 3 or 4 volunteers, not on the Board of Health. We also had 2 chiefs, we had deputy chiefs, we had quite a few individuals. So I've got a big issue, the fact that the EOC was stood up because the Board of Health at that point in time did not take this pandemic serious enough to move forward or to actually learn their trade. And that this is what they volunteered for. When we handed over, the town council, I should say, stopped the EOC, handed it over, back to the Board of Health. Nothing got any better. Communication with the public didn't get where it needed to be. There was a lot of suggestions given, and I think at that point in time, she was the chair, and still is the chair, and I think it is now time to move along. I rarely vote against a citizen member who volunteers their time. I don't think, I've only probably voted twice in 4 years. Another issue is the Board of Health knew at that point in time, and please tell me if I'm going overboard, but there was residents over on Main Street living in squalor. To a point where you had 2 places, 2 residents in that building on Main Street living in a closet with the number 6 or 7 right on the door, and they made it a room. They knew this. I got a phone call on the weekend and had to have a conversation with the Board of Health to get somebody out there to put up notification. If that place would have burnt down, this town would have been responsible, especially that we knew about it. Those actions should have been happening right away, not a once-a-month meeting. It should have happened right away with an emergency meeting. So I have no problem with people volunteering. I love the fact that they do. But at this point in time, I cannot support
Ms. Stevens for the Board of Health at this point in time. And I can go on. Thank you.
Councilor Ryan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. I will also not be supporting Ms. Stevens tonight. She is the Board of Health is a prime example of not posting a properly detailed agenda. I have missed meetings in which I would have wanted to go during the pandemic because information was not properly posted as to what was being discussed. It's the same cookie cutter template every single time. And I get that there's standard items that go on every single meeting, but they cannot be using the same plain Jane agenda to not properly disclose what is being discussed. That's unacceptable. So she has been the chair of this board. She's been the chair of this board consistently. She bears the responsibility of posting and approving the agenda for her board. She bears the responsibility of not properly informing the public. I will not be voting for her. Thank you.
Anyone else? Councilor Lazo.
In a quick closing comment, I have never voted against a citizen member as long as I've been in government. I think a citizen's member or somebody volunteering like this to put their time in is so special to have people come forward and do this. But it comes a time where you have to, do what you have to do as a councilor, vote your conscience, and on this one here, I cannot support it. Thank you.
And Councilor Joanne.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just based on the EHS recommendation, the EHS recommendation was a 3-0 vote to move it to council for discussion. I had a lot of concerns about moving this appointment forward, but I moved it as the only councilor that sat as the active councilor in the subcommittee, so I thought it was important enough for me at least to vote so that we would have the opportunity to come to the floor. The two other citizen members, I don't believe, have quite the same history or backing as to what this position entails. Like the previous speakers have said, this is a difficult decision because of the fact that we have a very difficult time having individuals step up to fill positions. That being said, this position is one of great responsibility for the town of Southbridge. And I think that board itself is very important board for the health and safety of the town. And as to what one of the previous speakers said, during the pandemic, the town council had to take the lead in the health and safety of our residents. And I am grateful for the Director of Inspections, Health Director Pelletier's participation with us. However, his board wasn't with him. That board should have been part of the conversations. We did succeed through the pandemic through a lot of hard work of a great team of individuals absent the Board of Health. And for that reason, it is difficult for me to support a reappointment to a board that the leadership wasn't there during the most important time in the town of Southbridge. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Roll call vote, Mr. Chair.
Certainly. Okay, roll call vote.
Councilor Adams?
No.
Councilor Daniel?
No.
Councilor Dow? No. Councilor Joanne?
No.
Councilor Lazo?
No.
Councilor Marquetti?
No.
Councilor Ryan?
No.
Councilor Steves?
No.
By 0-8, the motion fails. Ms. Stevens is not appointed to the Board of Health. 15C, Central Mass Regional Planning Commission, David Adams. The hold is because Councilor Adams is on the board. All those in favor? All those opposed? Unanimous of all present.
I'll abstain from
Thank you.
voting for myself. Thank you.
I thought you were first. All right, there's a hold on 15D, the Conservation Commission, Maureen Doyle.
Oh, for the same reason as the last one, I'm abstaining.
Very good. All those in favor? Opposed? And one abstention. And Planning Board hold, Corey Belrose, 15E.
I will be abstaining for that person as my direct superior at my place of employment.
Very good. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? Abstains? 701. I appreciate the council's indulgence. Won't happen again. Item number 16, vote to confirm the town manager's recommendation to appoint Robert G. Caprara, Esquire, attorney at law, as special counsel to the Department of Inspections, effective immediately through June 30, 2023.
So moved.
Second.
Councilor Ryan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, this was recommended unanimously by the General Government Subcommittee. As we all know, he has left our services for general legal services. However, he had shown an interest in continuing on for inspection-related services, so he'll be specializing in the town with inspection-related services.
Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the council. I know a question came to my office as I was not there last Thursday at the Gen Gov meeting when I was at the MMA meeting. I did speak with Councilor Caprara, I should say, Counselor with the E, Caprara earlier in the evening, and he had indicated that he would be using the same rate, hourly rate, as he did for our town council services, which was $195 an hour, which is considerably less than some of the Boston attorneys. And this affords us a couple of things. He has knowledge of the town. He has worked with Mr. Pelletier in his office, and it also saves us in that we're not bringing one of our regular Boston firms all the way out to Dudley District Court should we have to go to court. And I know, speaking with Attorney Caprara over the last 2 years, he's always enjoyed having the title and working and serving the people of Southbridge as town council, but as his practice has changed over the years, he wanted to tailor his services to something that would work best for all of us, and where he has focused primarily in the last year or so on inspectional service, it only made sense that we would tailor him to be special counsel for this particular department.
Very good. Councilor Steves.
Thank you. Just a quick question. One is, how often does this department need a lawyer? And can you clarify a little bit exactly what he would be doing for this department?
I could probably have Mr. Pelletier come to the podium, but they're routine, you have to seek court orders to get into buildings, evict people, all sorts of issues like that. And I can't speak to every one of them, but I know Mr. Pelletier routinely comes to see me about issues like this. So Mr. Pelletier is here.
Good evening. Good evening. Mr. Caprara will be, every one of our cases that we can't resolve locally goes to the housing court.
Right.
We cannot, for 25, 23 years, I was allowed to represent the municipalities in housing court. The housing court decided that a person can represent themselves, but they can't represent anybody else. I cannot go to court and represent the corporation of Southbridge anymore. I have to have an attorney. Only an attorney can represent somebody else.
That's ridiculous.
So anytime I go into court, I have to be represented by an attorney. Potentially 1 to 2 cases a week could end up in court. Right now, my inspector, who has been doing my housing, is out on family leave, and I've been doing the housing, and I've got some cases out there that people are living in substandard housing for more than 30 days. I haven't had access to the housing court without access to this lawyer. So I can't have people living 30, 60, 90 days in substandard housing. So I will be moving cases to court, at least until the town realizes that I'm not going to allow it to happen anymore. So I anticipate 50 to 60 cases this year, 70 cases maybe.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Councilor Lazo.
You first.
You were first.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To you.
All right.
I got a question. We can't hire him by the case? Have to be by hour?
As with Couplement and Page, when we access them, it's per hour, it's not per case.
Thank you.
Council Lazo.
When did this change that you couldn't represent us?
I said a couple years ago, but it was probably 4 to 5 years ago.
Really?
When Mr. San Angelo was here, I had a request into him to have access to the attorney for purposes of housing court. So I basically had, whenever I needed Mr. Caprara, I had him there.
So under the new town manager, how do we handle it?
Exact same way I've been working under the original approval, but I can just write a request. Actually, under this situation, Mr. Caprara would be the town council for inspection services, so I would have access to Mr. Caprara
Right,
for
I
this
understand
purpose.
under this, but what I'm saying is, since St. Angelo left, the new town manager came on, how do we handle these legal matters now?
I have been working on, I've just been calling Mr. Caprara.
Mr. Manager.
Yes, when we went through and did council appointments a little over a year ago, we named KP our primary town council, and Attorney Caprara was also named town council. And what we were utilizing him for, and I believe what we talked about at that time, was he would be taking on some of these local cases. And it was my understanding that we had been utilizing him in the past primarily to deal with matters that came up in Dudley District Court, specifically Housing Court. And as I indicated, we have the benefit of his knowledge and his being able to work here and with us. You can pick up the phone and get him at any time, but also you're not paying somebody to come and drive all the way out from Boston to Dudley District Court. So it's advantageous to have someone from the local area to be able to cover those cases.
Mr. Town Manager, I'm not questioning Attorney Caprara. I'm wholeheartedly in spending our money locally. I was just trying to understand how we do business. Like, in other words, say St. Angelo left, you came on, our inspections division had a problem. Where would you take it legally? Would you do it yourself? Would it be Copeland and Page? Who handled the problem, or did we just didn't do anything?
I don't think I'm following you in the sense that if various department heads need legal services, they generally come through me, and I have served as the chief conduit to our point of contact at KP Law. Generally, liquor board, they talk to me, and I know they're reaching out to Meade, Talaman, and Costa. If something comes up on the landfill, I call Myrick O'Connell. But since I've been here, Mr. Pelletier has routinely advised me that there are matters going to Dudley District Court, and he has indicated, or generally he's contacted me and said he needs to use the services of Attorney Caprara. So I haven't questioned it because most of them have, we've had some instances of, say, essentially
So
hoarding.
what you're saying is Attorney Caprara handled it for us since you've been here?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And even before I got here, as far as I know.
Well, I understand before you got here, he was handling it, but I was saying, were we continuously using him to wipe up some of the trouble that we're having?
Yeah,
And if the answer is yes, then we're just continuously using
Yes.
the same fellow. Thank you, that's
And
all.
I
That's all.
apologize because the fan's going over here, and for whatever reason, I'm not hearing you as clearly as I should.
Okay, sorry.
Councilor Ryan.
I think I get what you were saying. You were wondering about that gap of coverage during the time in which Attorney Caprara has now left to now, what has the town been doing? Is that what you were?
Correct.
That is what Councilor Lazo was asking. So since Caprara has been gone, I believe Andy has stated that it's been piling up and nothing has happened thus far because we don't have legal representation. Correct, Mr. Pelletier?
I do not have access to the housing court without the
Okay.
attorney. I did not want to call Copeland and Page in every time. Every 6 hours that I would spend on Mr. Caprara, every 5 hours that I would spend on Copeland and Page, I can buy 6 hours with Mr. Caprara. Mr. Caprara is very familiar with my work, and I've got 20 years of preparing cases for the housing court. So I don't ask Mr. Caprara to prepare the cases. I prepare them, I present them to him for review. Ton of time is saved by doing it that way.
Yes.
I don't think Copeland and Page would accept
Thank you.
the same cooperation.
So thank you, Mr. Pelletier. That just highlights the urgency of this, though, because this type of work hasn't been happening now since Mr. since he has left his position. So to bring him on now with specialized services for your department means we can get your department actually up and running and tackling these cases again. So let's get it done.
Very good. Anyone else? Very well. All those in favor? Opposed?
Sorry, I'm in favor of it.
You're in favor? Great. No one opposed, unanimous of all present. Item 17, vote to confirm the town manager's recommendation to reappoint Karen Hanoi as the Accountant Finance Director for a 5-year term effective August 24th, 2022 through August 24th, 2027. State ethics and good standing.
So moved.
Second.
Councilor Ryan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, this was recommended unanimously by the General Government Subcommittee.
Mr. Manager?
I would just respectfully ask that the council reappoint Ms. Harnois. She's been the finance director here for far longer than I have been here. She's an invaluable member of our staff. She has a breadth and depth of knowledge of the town, which has been evident in her assistance to me during the budgeting process. And every time this board has a question, she's always there. She's actually here this evening to answer any questions on the other articles. So I would respectfully request your approval of Ms. Harnois for another term as finance director and town accountant.
Very good. Council Lazo.
Just a quick moment. I've served on council, school committee, seen all kind of finance directors, good ones, bad ones. John LaFleche, you know, one of our shining stars of the past. I just want to say that Karen Hanoi is a outstanding finance director. I like the way she volleys. She doesn't roll over for anybody. And when she has issues, she brings them forward and she puts her best efforts forward on standing on what she believes in. So she has a high standard, and I really do like that. I mean, it works in Southbridge, and I will be supporting her today.
Very good. Councilor Joanne.
Thank you. Through you. I just want to thank Ms. Hanoi for all the work that she has done for this community. As we see, there is a lot of positions out there and a lot of movement with other individuals can leave and go find a job almost anywhere right now. There's a tremendous demand for municipal finance, town managers and all that. And for us to have the team that we have right now and to retain Ms. Hanoi for additional 5 years is a kudos to our town. And I just want to really thank her for all the hard work that she has done throughout my tenure as chair of the council as I leave the town council, because she has been an invaluable person. I know her and I like to banter quite a bit. If she had her no button right here, I'd just hit it, but all in jest. And it's great that 4 years later that we can get Ms. Hanoi to smile, because I think when I first got on council, she held it very close to her vest and has very much loosened up. So thank you for all that, Karen, and I wholeheartedly support this appointment. Thank you.
Great. Anyone else? Councilor Marquetti.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I, too, am supporting Karen. You know, when I first got elected to the council, I didn't know Karen very well. And after working with her, especially on the capital planning committee, I learned that she is very valuable, very knowledgeable, very smart, and really has a very common sense approach to her job, and answered a lot of questions and taught me a lot on capital planning. So I'll be voting for her as well. Thank you.
Anyone else? Very well. All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Unanimous of all present. Item number 18, vote to confirm the town manager's recommendation to appoint Matthew Desjardins as interim acting DPW director until such time a full-time DPW director is hired.
So moved.
Second.
DPW, Councilor Marquetti.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you. As I had stated, I was out of town on a family issue, so I wasn't able to hold a meeting. And the town manager called me up and asked if he could move this forward. tonight. Thank you.
Very good. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the council. As I understand, part of Mr. Desjardins' job description is in the absence of the DPW director, he would assume the role of the acting DPW director. But I also look at that as when your DPW director is here and that person is out on vacation or out sick. Mr. Desjardins has been our deputy DPW director. He's an engineer. He has, during my time, I've worked with him on a variety of different projects. I think he has a good understanding of what's going on. I've talked to him and Ms. Blakely prior to her departure about him stepping into this role. And I believe it is important at this time, because of some of the projects that we're doing, the ability to have somebody sitting in the actual interim position with that designation. So I am asking that we formally, or this body formally confirm my recommendation that he be the interim DPW director and that he be afforded all rights and privileges that go along with that so that he can carry out any of the duties that the DPW director would otherwise do.
Council Lazo.
Just a quick question. I have no problem with what we're doing here. What is the term that we're looking at as far as being interim?
I mean, I am open to any suggestion. What I had put is such time as we hire a DPW director is hired, that's what we put in the agenda. I have seen in other instances, I think in your charter, you may have something where somebody's appointed for a term, maybe 3 or 6 months, which may be renewed from time to time. I didn't have an exact wording. I didn't know how long this process would take. This could take 30 days. This could take 6 months. I look back historically. I think they went out 4 times seeking a permanent DPW director when Ms. Blakely was the assistant. And after 4 search attempts, they wound up, I think this body made her the DPW director, the permanent DPW director. So I was going to mention this in the next agenda item, but if you look, I looked today, there's 312 postings this month alone on the MMA website for municipal positions. Although it's germane to the next one, there are 14 positions related to being a treasurer or assistant treasurer collector, 7 full collectors and 7 assistants. I'm sure if I just did something similar right now for DPW, we would find something similar. So it's very hard right now to recruit quality candidates for a lot of these positions. And as I alluded to earlier from the MMA discussion, post-COVID, people are concerned about taking some of the leadership roles. We're seeing that in various organizations because it is a different environment. There's a little more incivility. So we're going to take our time to fill this position. As I've indicated before, I have several DPW directors from the area that have come highly recommended, that have indicated they would help review all these. But we want to make sure we get a good fit, so it could take, a couple of months. So, as I said, if you want to say, a 90-day period or a 6-month period to be renewed each time, or if you just want to leave it as is, I'm open to either.
I don't have a problem leaving it the way it is. My thing is, with all the projects that we have going, and all the ones that we are going to be getting into, the bridges and other things, and continuing our road repairs, I wouldn't want to leave that position vacant for a long period of time. That's my only point. Thank you.
Understood.
Anyone else? Very good. All those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous of all present. Item number 19, vote to confirm the town manager's recommendation to appoint Joanne Savignac as interim acting treasurer collector for a period not to exceed 6 months.
So moved. Second.
Very good. Councilor Adams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Recommend an amendment to that to add in there at the very end, after the 6 months, and allow the town manager to sign all related documents.
I'll make that as a motion.
Yep.
There you go.
All right.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Council Ryan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, this was recommended by the General Government Subcommittee unanimously. This person, the aim is to get this person in the door with 2 weeks left to go on Miss Sharon Ashley's term. She's leaving to go back for a job in her home community. So this person will be hopefully onboarded with 2 weeks with the current treasurer collector here, so that way they have some time to review and transfer off obligations. I'm sure the manager has more to add.
Very good. All right, we have an amendment on the floor to add the words "and allow the town manager to sign all paperwork as necessary," I believe.
To sign all related documents.
Thank you. All related documents. All right. Any discussion on the amendment? All those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous, all present on the amendment. Okay, very good. We're back to the main motion. Mr. Manager.
As I indicated in the last agenda item, right now there are 7 full treasurer collectors in the Commonwealth positions that are open, and 7 assistant treasurer collectors, and that's this month alone. There's been a lot of movement at a lot of key positions in the Commonwealth post-COVID. This trend has been going for about a year, I would say. We've noticed as we've been trying to fill these positions, last year we had some turnover. And last summer when we tried to fill this position, I think we underestimated how long this process would take, and it did put a strain on a lot of the support staff here. So we felt this would do 2 things. One, it would help with the transfer of knowledge before Mr. Ashley left, that we would get somebody, and by using a firm that came recommended, we're getting somebody who can hit the ground running, and that we would not burn out our staff who's already trying to catch up from some of the other ripples that we've dealt with COVID, and that we would have someone here to transfer that knowledge to whomever we hire to fill Ms. Ashley's shoes. So again, respectfully request your confirmation of this appointment so that we can make a successful and smooth transition.
Very good. Any discussion? Councilor Marquetti.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you, could I just have a little information about this individual?
Not going to look in your packet, but I do know that this Hanoi might be able to refresh my recollection, but I believe this person may have been recommended by our former town treasurer, Ms. Zawadzki. Is that correct? But I can tell you that she has about 25 years of experience. I believe she worked at Westboro, Paxton, and Charlton, and is retired as a treasurer collector. But I can't remember how we got the name recommended to us. Do you remember, Ms. Harnois?
If I could, through the chair.
Certainly.
I do believe that we knew her through working with the town of Charlton.
Okay.
And we did bring her in. Myself and Sharon Ashley interviewed with her along with Adriana and the town manager. And she actually has munis experience as well with payroll and with collection. And we were impressed with her experience. And we feel that she would be a good member of the team for the interim period. And she is retired currently from the town of Charlton.
Very good. That's fine. Outside. Great. Any other discussion? Very well. All those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous of all present. Item number 20. Vote to confirm the town manager's recommendation to reappoint Anna Smith as the landfill monitor for a 3-year term effective July 1, 2022 through June 30, 2025. State ethics and good standing.
So moved.
Second.
Very good. Councilor Joanne.
Thank you. Through you. Again, this was recommended to come to full council for discussion. It was brought up during the meeting to the town manager that why was it a 3-year appointment given the fact that the landfill closure was taking place, and was it a need for a 3-year appointment or perhaps a 1-year? So if I could defer to the town manager so that he could bring to the council what he had found out. Thank you.
Very good. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to Councilor Joanne and the rest of the council members. I did speak with Ms. Smith today, and she said her appointment has been year to year in the past. And Mr. Pelletier was present, and they did say year to year would be fine, but ideally a 2-year appointment might work because that would dovetail with the actual closure date of the landfill. So either a year to year or a 2-year, based on my conversations with Ms. Smith and Mr. Pelletier.
Very good. Council Lazo.
I'd like to make an amendment to make it a 1 year.
Very good. There's an amendment on the floor. All those in favor? Opposed? Council Marquetti opposes, 7-1 for the amendment. Okay, we have an amendment on the, we have a main motion on the floor to appoint Anna Smith for a 1-year term.
I have a question, if Andy could come up. What does Anna do now that the landfill is where it's at this point? The landfill at this point, is it capped or are they, where are we at and what does Anna do at this point?
We, excuse me again, we are at the tail end of the CAD 2. CAD is the, I actually wrote it because I can't remember. It's the corrective action plan. Those are the orders to close the landfill. So CAD 1 was the east slope. That one is complete. We're at the tail end of CAD 2, just buttoning that one up. Essentially, the landfill is closed. Going from there, we have a CSA, a comprehensive site assessment, and we also have a ACO, which is an administrative corrective order. There are 2 documents that the DEP ordered enacted. All of the surface water testing, all of the groundwater testing, and the monitoring of the conditions of the landfill, the settling, it's a new process. We've got artificial turf up there, not natural cap. So we want to keep a stronger eye on that. So Anna is reviewing every document that comes in from the tie-in bond, Sanborn Head, and CEC, who are the 3 engineers on site. Anna reviews all of the DEP orders, amendments, and things in that order, and also any responses from the Casella or SRD back to the DEP. I will tell you, Anna does not spend her full time on the landfill. As the council should be aware, she is also my recycling coordinator. The reason we did that was because I still need her presence here during the closure of the landfill, but I don't need her full presence here. We cut her hours from 37.5 hours a week down to 22 hours a week, and she is bringing in monies through a grant. So, and also none of her time is paid on general funds. It's all paid by Casella or by a dedicated fund that has to be used for recycling. So is she 100% busy with the landfill? No, but she is still embroiled in it. I would say 40 to 50% of her time is on landfill.
What is her salary line for what she does at the landfill as a monitor?
What do you mean, what's her salary line? Her salary, she gets the same salary no matter what she's doing, but she gets reimbursed from the landfill for what she does related to the landfill, and she gets reimbursed from the recycling fund, which has to be used for recycling for what she does.
So you're saying a portion comes from the landfill and a portion comes from recycling?
Correct.
All right, thank you.
Anyone else? Very well. All those in favor? All those against? 7-1. Motion passes. 5-minute recess, please.
Thank you.